Hey guys, what's going on? We got the anniversary patch coming up here in a couple days, and Enhancement Shaman is receiving some massive changes, specifically to the hero talent. So I'm going to quickly go over for PvP what kind of talent builds we could be seeing. Now, this is all speculation. I was going to do some testing on the PTR, but the PTR is down, and also beforehand there was nobody even queuing PvP or even on the PTR, so I couldn't really get it. So this is all just a guesstimation at what we could be looking at, and if you guys want to try them out rather than trying to figure it out yourselves, you could try these if you want, but I cannot guarantee these are amazing, but they're probably pretty decent. But anyways, we're going to start with Stormbringer. So, but first, I was going to do that, but so there's been some massive changes specifically to Totemic. Stormbringer and Totemic have been split into Elementalist with Totemic and Storm with Stormbringer. So you no longer have 4 different builds to choose from, you now have 2, although Totemic is still in this weird position, which we'll go over later. But anyways, we're going to start with Stormbringer. So we've had a few new talent changes, one being that we get Electroshock, which is a movement speed. Depending on how much Lightning Conduit actually procs in an arena, that could be very effective. In RBGs, that might also be really, really good too, because it goes up to 100%, I think, but we'll see what happens. But I think Electroshock will be really good for every time you Tempest, you get a burst of movement speed. But if Lightning Conduit procs a lot, then I'd say go with Lightning Conduit because it's a massive burst of speed. The next one is going to be Nature's Protection. Lightning Shield granting you 3% damage reduction, which is pretty crazy. Swirling Currents, or Surging Currents, sorry, could be very, very good. Especially if you're fighting like a pet class such as Warlock or BM Hunter or Unholy DK, you could get a healing surge at double the power. That could go quite insane, especially when you mix it with your Stormweaver. So testing that would be a good idea, but 3% damage reduction overall is pretty amazing considering we're always the target. But again, like if that heal is insane, then I would say we should swap to Surging Currents and actually use that, because that could go crazy. Basically what happens with this talent, and from what I tested, it's based on how many times Tempest hits. So every time you cast Tempest, you gain a stack. If it hits 1 to 5 targets, it goes up to 100. But if you cast Tempest 5 times without casting a healing surge, it will stack up to 100 eventually. So keep that in mind. And then the other choice node is Stormwell. I think the mastery bonus on PTR, this was 10%. I don't know why it's doing that, but so I think that's going to be really good. But Supercharge at the same time could be good against casters. When you're not able to connect, you just sit there and you have a chance to kind of spam lightning bolts all the time. It has been nerfed down from 3 Maelstrom, so it's not as powerful, but I mean, the choice nodes are still really, really good. So I'd say against a range, maybe go try Supercharge. But other than that, I'd stick to Stormwell. On to the real talents. So we have a couple new ones. We have Voltic Blaze, which is interesting. Basically, every time you Tempest, Lightning Bolt, or Chain Lightning, you have a chance to turn Flame Shock into Voltic Blaze, which hits 5 targets, does nature damage, and does a bunch of damage, as well as generates Maelstrom. Very good button. Just a quick little thing to get a bit of flame shock out there, especially if you need a range button or something. Also, just a talent filler. We also have a choice. So, Converging Storms, obviously, this is nerfed down to 10%. If you're fighting more of like a non-pet, but they're split up, so let's say like a warrior and a mage, maybe they're not always together, you could go with Unrelenting Storms, which guarantees a Wind Fury proc. It's also not on the Wind Fury GCD, I think. And then it also reduces the cooldown, so it does apply pretty good single target pressure. But Converging Storm, I think, would be best, especially if you're fighting like Unholy DKs and stuff like that, just getting that massive Storm Strike buff. There is this Sunder button, but because it removes the Incapacitate, I don't think it's going to be all that wanted in PvP because that incap is super massive. But it is pretty interesting. Basically what happens is every time you trigger your Storm Strike reset, has a chance to reset Sunder. And then we have Flowing Spirits, which is a new one. Every time you do damaging effects, you have a chance to summon Feral Spirits. This lines up really well with our new tier set. So instead of spawning one Feral Spirit, it's actually spawning two. And with the physical build, it's going to be spawning two Feral Spirits. You can get a lot. On PTR, this has been proccing significant amount. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, if you like using unused Feral Spirits, just go with Witch Doctor's Ancestry. But I think Flowing Spirits is going to be better off this season. And then not Rooted Elements, sorry. You want Ascendance. Rooted Elements has been basically gutted because they want to make a massive change to it. So it's actually down to 3% chance to proc. But in the future patch sometime soon, I don't know when, they're changing it to per Maelstrom spent. So if it stays at 3%, we could be looking at 15 to 30% proc chance per lightning bolt. So that'll be interesting. But for now, Ascendance is the way to go. It is down to 2 minutes because of Thorum's Invocation, reducing the cooldown of Ascendance now. So yeah. But anyways, this is the build for Stormbringer if you're interested. Still plays the exact same, except now you have 2 charges of Storm Strike. Ascendance is a 2-minute, Doomwinds is AoE, stuff like that. So this is what I think is Stormbringer is going to look like. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be so much better than what it was, especially having a 2-minute Ascendance. And Ice Strike does have the option to go into a proc chance, but I think just basic Ice Strike is going to be better off anyways, so I wouldn't worry about that. But yeah, this is my thought on Stormbringer. So let me know what you guys think, and let me know how it goes if you run this. On to the next one here, we're going to go with the Elementalist Totemic. So I will import this. Hopefully this works. And it did, yay. Okay, so Totemic got some massive changes. Totem, still the same thing, except it's got its volley built into it. Now when you proc Hot Hands, you cause a Sunder every time you Lava Lash at 30% effectiveness. You also have a new Wind Fury effect, so Wind Fury now buffs Flame Tongue. So every time Wind Fury procs, it triggers Flame Tongue, doing its damage at 100% effectiveness and splitting damage to AoE every time Wind Fury procs too. So Flame Tongue is actually going to go insane. And then Totemic Rebound has been changed to Lightning Bolt and stuff instead of Storm Strike. And the Whirling Elements, very important here. So Lightning Bolt and stuff procs 3 Surging Bolts. Earth affects Flame Shock. Excuse me. Basically, the direct damage is increased by 300% and applies to 5 enemies. We're going to mix that with Voltic Blaze. And then, where's the third one? There it is. You're guaranteed a Hot Hands proc. This is massive. So every 24 seconds, or 26 seconds, whichever one it is, you are guaranteed Hot Hands. This is pretty insane for damage output and for PvP. So Totemic Elementalist could be looking insane. So this is basically staying the same as it was. The only thing I've done is I've put in Voltic Blaze just because it interacts with the Earth effect from your totem. So if you can line that up, you can actually get like a 1 million hit from your Flame Shock. Kind of pops off pretty good. The other thing is going to be our Primordial Wave. I am not certain that this is going to be still viable because it got hit with a massive nerf. Primal Storm or Primal Maelstrom went down from 10 stacks of Maelstrom generated to 5 stacks. And with Splintered Elements already being nerfed from 20 to 10% in Dragonflight or whatever, I don't know if this is going to be the most powerful. I've also chosen to run Ancestry because you want that on-demand proc rather than taking a risk at chance procking. And other than that, regular Ice Strike, because I really don't think the proc chance is going to be all that valuable. Maybe in PvE, but from what I've tested, it does not proc very much, so I think Ice Strike baseline is better, plus you're guaranteed 2 stacks of Maelstrom when you press it, so I don't know. But yeah, that's my opinion on that. But other than that, Totemic has not changed very much. This is what Sol has basically been running on the real tier or real realm, whatever you want to call it, live realms. There we go. Except I've just put Voltic Blaze in there because I think it's going to be very, very useful. The other version of Elementalist, which I think is actually going to pop off pretty good, and that involves something similar to what has already been seen. I believe this is more of Big Dam's build. It's one I've shown before. That worked? Yes, it did. Okay, so we're going to go the Doomwinds route here. So rather than going down Primordial Wave, I know a lot of people hate it, but with the nerf, it's become even less valuable. I think running down Primordial Wave or running down to Doomwinds is going to be insane. I have not tested this, keep in mind, but linking Doomwinds with the Imbuement Mastery, I think is going to go insane. Flame Tongue is doing a lot of damage, and then, sorry, you should switch that to supportive Imbuments because you're going to be relying on Flame Tongue a whole lot. I think this build will possibly be the better version of Totemic just because of how bad Primordial Wave got hit. But yeah, other than that, not a lot of a difference in the build from current, but there are some added factors such as Voltic Blaze. I think this is going to be mandatory in most builds just because of how much damage it has been dealing on the PTR. And because it hits multiple targets, getting those flame shocks out there, I think is very, very useful. And that also buffs your Ashen Catalyst too. But yeah, guys, these are my thoughts. The codes will be in the description if you want to check them out. But anyways, that is it. Let me know your thoughts on these builds and let me know how your testing goes as well if you do test them out. That'll be very important. And once the patch comes out and I get a lot more testing, I'll do another guide more in depth and stuff like that about the builds and what seems to be working the best and stuff. So yeah, anyways guys, that is it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed and best of luck out there. Laters!